Have the Conservatives given any thought, given that you're calling a referendum, which could lead to Britain leaving, as to what the status of EU migrants here would be?
Well, I think we've just heard a very incoherent viewpoint from UKIP on what they would do when, as they say, Britain will leave. But I didn't ask for your view on UKIP. I asked for what your view is on your policy. What the Conservative Party policy is that we are determined to negotiate a much more fundamental reform around the unintended consequences of free movement, and then what we intend to do is to put it to the British people as to whether they want to stay in or out after those reforms have been negotiated.
I understand all that, so let me ask you that. I understand that, which is why I asked you the question, and I'll ask my question again. If the British people vote to leave, have you given any thought to what the status of EU migrants would be?
What we will be doing is, in due course, once we start that work to renegotiate, we will be, of course, looking at what that would mean if the British people did vote to leave. But that's precisely why David Cameron has been very clear he wants to see a fundamental reform, not a sort of binary choice as is being put forward by UKIP.
In what way was Mr Wolfe incoherent?
Well, because on the one hand, I assume UKIP wants Britain to remain part of the single market, with access to a market of 300 million people, with the ability to sell our goods into Europe, to buy theirs, to have free movement of key people. But what he's saying is we'll point out to the EU how childish they're being if they try and stop our citizens from living and working in Europe. I mean, that's not a coherent strategy. If we're going to keep access to the single market...
He said that he thinks that everybody living here should be able to carry on living here, and that we should be able to carry on going there. What's incoherent about that?
Because access to the single market requires that you abide by the principles of free movement of labour, capital, services and so on. So if we want to retain access to the single market, there will need to be free movement of labour, which is why what David Cameron's trying to do is to ensure it's labour and not free movement of access to benefits or to not working or whatever.
Let's look, Emma Reynolds, at Labour's recent policy announcements. There have been quite a few. Let me give you a quote. It's not racist to talk about immigration. It's not racist to criticise the system. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, so if you agree with that, why, when Michael Howard said these words in 2005, Labour accused him of being scurrilous, right-wing and ugly?
Look, we have been clear that we need a managed system of migration, and one that is fair. And we've also been clear that we are committed to our membership of the European Union because we think it's better for jobs and investment that we remain inside the European Union. But we need a system that is fair in terms of the people who come here to work.
But that's what Michael Howard was proposing in the 2005 election. Why was it scurrilous, right-wing and ugly then, and is now Labour policy today?
Well, from what I remember, and it was some time ago, obviously,
it was 9 years ago.
And you know, the discussion then about immigration was quite different to the discussion now. Well, we have had a period now, and we've been clear about this, that we made a mistake in 2004, and our party has been very clear about that. We should have had transitional
But what bit of Michael Howard's immigration policy that he fought the election on in 2005 don't you agree with now?
Well, from what I remember, his rhetoric on immigration was fairly worrying. To be perfectly frank, that is quite some time ago. I didn't stand for Parliament in that general election.
No,
I don't
but
think
your
that's part of the debate today.
Your party now seems to have his perfect. Michael Howard never ever went so far as to say that EU immigrants should have to wait 2 years before claiming out-of-work benefits.
Well,
yeah, that's your policy now, isn't it?
We want a system that is fair. We've been clear that migration does bring benefits, but also that there are impacts for communities with regard to pressure on public services. Other European member states, Germany was just mentioned in terms of the ECJ, European Court of Justice ruling, about whether a migrant should be seeking work and contributing before they claim benefits. There are other member states who are concerned about the system. We need a system that is fair for everybody. Fair for local people, but also for migrants who are coming to the UK.
But you said, Labour said that you would not out-UKIP UKIP.
And we are not.
Well, you say that, but...
We don't want to leave the EU. We don't want to repatriate people to their own countries.
Immigration. Well, we haven't heard anything about doing that from the UK.
Well,
no,
Mark Reckless said that they should be here only for a fixed period. Well, what he said last night was very telling.
Let me ask you this. 2 months ago, the UKIP said at their conference, we need more border guards. Today, more border guards. Last month, UKIP said we have to cut down on paying welfare to EU migrants. You're now cutting down on welfare to EU migrants. Nigel Farage is always attacking so-called liberal media. Yvette Cooper now attacks the liberal media. In what way are you not out-UKIPing UKIP?
Well, UKIP say that they want us to leave the European Union. But I am against that
I understand
position.
that. I'm talking about immigration.
Mark Reckless last night came perilously close to say that we should repatriate EU migrants to their countries, and he said that they should be apparently here for a fixed period. Apparently that's been clarified today, but it's very worrying what he said last night.
Why would Rachel Reeves write about all this on the Daily Mail, which only the day before the Labour leader had implied that the Daily Mail was part of the dark forces trying to do him down? Well, why are you using dark forces?
The Daily Mail online is read by more people than
but they're
any
part
other
of the dark forces.
News site. Rachel Reeves was setting out what we think is a clear and balanced and progressive way of making sure that we manage the impacts of immigration, but that we have a system that doesn't undercut local workers.
We need to move on. I've got one final question for you, though. They've now gone to 2 years. They're now tougher than you on immigration, as we are in this, what some may see as a rather unsavoury arms race about being tough on immigrants. Do you want to go more than 2 years? Would you like to up the ante today?
Actually, what I wanted to say is that the only way to achieve proper, fair immigration rules is by negotiating for reform within the EU. We can't do it unilaterally. The Labour Party...
Do you want to go for more than 2 years, or don't you?
No, the Labour government signed up to the Lisbon Treaty. We are negotiating for reform within the free movement.
Would you go 2 years before anybody can get benefits?
No. What we are seeking to do is we are looking to ensure that people who come to this country are coming here to work and not coming here for benefits. The only way to do that is with a credible reform proposal followed by a referendum. You can't do it unilaterally as Labour are proposing.
All right, we're going to have to leave